Días. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Buenos días, ¿están bien? Párense a ver si tenemos energía. Can you stand up? We need energy. It has been a beautiful week, but I know we're already exhausted, so we need to make sure we have our energy levels ready because we have a powerful speakers and panelists today, so I want you to have the best of it. My name is Andrea Minsky. I'm a TV host, I'm a journalist, and I'm super honored and grateful to be here. Today we're gonna have Stefan Siegel, he's a rock star from Italy. We're gonna have Neliana Vermayor from Venezuela, and we're gonna have beautiful panelists talking about fashion, sustainability, eco-friendly, and what we wear matters. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this because I love to look good, and we all do, but the most important thing is how do we feel, and what we wear is important. As the same thing that when we eat, we really think about what we're eating, when we are wearing things, we have to really think about it because it impacts the environment of the world that we live in. And when we talk about sustainability, eco-fashion, all of that, we're not trying to be like trendy or throw out a buzzword to be catchy. It's really important because I want to give you some facts. The fast fashion sector of rapid production and sales is the second most polluting industry in the world after the oil industry. The United Nations has referred to it as an environmental emergency. Some stats to ponder. 13,000 liters of water are used to grow, process, and digest 1 kilo of cotton. That's just 2 pounds of cotton to make just 5 t-shirts. 20% of the toxins that reach the water come from the textile industry. Polyester fibers take 200 years to decompose. And cotton production accounts for 24% of the insecticides used in this world. So environmentally friendly and socially responsible fabrics that don't wrinkle, do not stain, and do not generate odors, recycled fabrics, is the future. The fashion of the future is sustainable. And that's why we have a beautiful panel and amazing speakers today. So we're going to start with Stefan Siegel. We're going to play a video for his company that is amazing. And I just want to welcome Antonio Banderas, our president, el presidente, mucho gusto. Un aplauso para él, por favor. Thank you so much. And let's talk about Stefan. So Stefan is Italian. He grew up in the northern part of Italy. He speaks German there. He speaks Italian, German, Spanish, so you can talk to him in any language. He went to study business and economics. And then after graduation, Stefan joined the world of investment banking, working in New York and London, specializing in the consumer and retail sector and advising publicly listed fashion powerhouses. In 2008, Stefan used his gained experience to launch Not Just a Label. Not to mention that he was a model, so he knows the industry in all the sides. Not Just a Label is the world's leading designer platform for showcasing today's pioneers in contemporary fashion. Not Just a Label represents over 35,000 designers from 150 countries. So there is so much talent around the world, and he's showcasing that talent. So congratulations for that. Let's see a video and let's welcome Stefan Siegel.
I would like to open by thanking Andrea for the lovely introduction with a lot of details about my previous career steps. Obviously to Miami Fashion Week Summit for having me, Antonio, for bringing me to Miami as well. So why is today so important? There needs to be a revolutionary reevaluation outside of the politics of the tired, antiquated, and selfish system that is currently in place. I have said this before at many other talks and conferences that there's something rotten in the fashion industry. In the court of fashion and luxury, we need to stem the disease, to break out of that feeding frenzy of production. By now we have 12 seasons a year. And I'm not alone in feeling this level of unease with the industry, and I'm also conscious that I don't have enough time today to do more than raise some questions for debate. I really think we need to find answers, and then we need to start the change from the inside. We can no longer remain complacent or disengaged about the serious issues confronting our industry, our planet, and our children's future. My name, as Andrea pointed out, is Stefan Siegel. I'm the founder of Not Just a Label, and I implore you to join me today, at least, for this revolution that we call of authentic radicalism. To me, changing the world is no longer an option, it is now an obligation. We have no choice. At the very least, we have to try. In 2008, I established Not Just a Label and spent the past 10 years building a platform to scale innovation, talent, and ideas in fashion, in luxury consumer goods, urban growth, and even manufacturing. We are a think tank boasting over 35,000 fashion designers and creatives. So what is Not Just a Label? As the film just showed, the NGL platform helps designers to gain exposure in the fashion industry at no cost and finance their progression independently. Today, we represent designers from 150 countries. It is an infinitely expanding destination devoted to facilitating growth in the fashion industry. So how does it work? Instead of following the obvious paths of passive consumption, as we call it, we encourage designers and artists to take the road less traveled. What I would like to do today is also look at the 4 pillars of the industry and look a bit at where we are now and really give you a bit of a reality check of what's happening in the fashion industry. So let us look at these 4 pillars of our incredible industry, and let's start with design. We define fashion as a creative industry, right? With an implicit understanding that its brands have a certain duty to creativity, even if that means a slightly smaller profit. Now it seems both the value of design and appreciation of the craft have been overtaken by greed. Has hype triumphed over true design? That's the question. Is the cachet provided by a celebrity name more important than the vision and the craftsmanship of a designer? Instagram celebrities who have no training or ability are taking the place of passionate and creative designers. If this is so, are we witnessing the produce of the mediocre and the unskilled? Have the clothes themselves become irrelevant? Look at brands like Gucci these days and so many other brands. How is this not a real-life version of the emperor's new clothes? And much more importantly, in terms of our supply chain, Andrea mentioned this before, my calls to arms is this: we need to slow down consumption. There's no way around that. We've all come to this conference because we love our planet, right? We want to pass it on to future generations, yet microfibers from our clothes are poisoning the oceans. 73 million children under 10 years old right now are working as child laborers, and too many of them working in the fashion industries. Carbon emissions are rising, and in the way our industry operates, natural resources are in jeopardy. Fashion, we are told, is a mirror held up to society. So what do we see in this reflection? Let's be honest, we see a society that values profit over the environment. And I really think we're seriously out of balance here. Surely it boils down, at least for me personally, to 3 fundamental themes. Number 1, we need to slow down consumption. We need to shop less, travel less, eat less. Number 2, we need to respect the people and the environment. And number 3, we need to acknowledge human needs. I think it's wrong to violate human rights, yet we're violating the planet of its resources, condemning all future people to struggle in misery. We have to take responsibility for this and for building an industry that created that lack of responsibility. Which brings me to marketing in luxury. Ladies and gentlemen, being an Instagram celebrity should not give you the automatic right to become the spokesperson on serious issues for the young, the impressionable, and the gullible. The it girls and boys of the moment hold power because we give it to them. I say let the fashion gods fall and let's start praising those word praising. And everything that can be commodified probably has been in fashion. What we have today is a hypercharged version of luxury, a treadmill of sneaker collaborations, lines of fashion, peddled by music stars, a youth culture gold rush that does violence to our children. The shift to digital, for me, is a major contributor to the celebration of the empty and momentary. And I think there's absolutely no pride in making young kids wait hours in line of stores like Supreme, in lines for luxury gear. And I think we should really be the responsible adults instead, empowering them to make informed choices. And finally, let's talk about innovation. I think there is a problem with social media, especially when an entire industry like fashion clings on to the lowest hanging fruit in terms of digital innovation. There's so much more interesting stuff out there happening in the digital sector that we could apply to fashion, like blockchain. But when the luxury industry funds virtual hearts instead of real soul, we send a message to future generations that looking pretty is the same thing as creating beauty. And building a lifestyle brand is the same thing as having a life. And that's just not true. When droves of teens and college students invade social media looking to be famous instead of making famous things, we all lose out. We need smarter conversations in luxury, and we must become technology leaders, not followers. And I think we must talk about new business models that are agile, not static, that are circular, not linear, adaptive, not rigid. Technology in luxury should be groundbreaking and not destroying the self-esteem of young and talented creatives. Let's use digital channels to level the playing field, to track our product's journey through the supply chain, to collaborate and to inspire globally. And as always, I'm always the one calling for a revolution. And I really think most of the power of institutions lies in the belief people give to these institutions. Each of us here has a choice, the choice to become a leader. And let's remember, the guru doesn't sit on top of a mountain saying, "Have you seen my Instagram?" Clearly, we need a new narrative. We need to go back to a system based on ideals. Luxury today is an industry that is seeking answers. And so does sustainable fashion, which is an oxymoron in itself. But we will not find them in short-termism. We will only find them by thinking about future generations and by rediscovering a value system. So what are we at Not Just a Label doing to walk the walk? Not Just a Label for me is a cultural celebration. It shows fashion can grow in the bleakest and most far-flung corners of the globe. We promote ethical fashion, fair working conditions, facilitating emerging designers globally, and not politics in fashion. We at Not Just a Label, we see radical and the positive change that is already happening. So there are actually good news out there. And even if some people think they can stop change from happening. Every year we do a survey with all of our designers, so 35,000 brands help us in bringing this data together. What you might be able to see on this slide is the average employee count per brand. So what we've seen over the last couple of years is that emerging design businesses have become much smaller. And that's actually a good thing. So more and more designers are going away from a very expensive and unsustainable wholesale process. They're becoming smaller, but they're becoming much more profitable. 46% of our designers are still going to Paris for Fashion Week, but 65% of the designers also told us that next year they will not go to Fashion Weeks anymore. They will not participate in the wholesale cycle. They will not participate in creating season after season and a resort collection and a menswear collection and so many different things that probably the world right now doesn't need. Even more positive is a trend where manufacturing is actually coming back to local markets. So minimums have come down. When we did this survey a few years ago, designers were complaining that any factory they went to, they had to order at least 200 units minimum. That minimum has come down to 5. So for me, that is the essence in on-demand manufacturing, and I know a lot of students are here. On-demand manufacturing means you only produce or you only manufacture what you can actually sell. So if you have a real-time connection to your manufacturer and you can produce locally, I think that is the answer to a lot of problems that we have in manufacturing. So you manufacture locally, you order whatever you need from the manufacturer that you can immediately sell. And also, obviously, with the downside of shipping, which is booming at the moment, so in our entire database of designers ships about 19 million parcels a year. In some way, that's a good thing. It's also a bad thing because, as yesterday someone on the panel mentioned, we need to still take the plastic out of transportation. It's still hard to ship something in a hygienic way from a manufacturer to a retailer and then onto the consumer. But hopefully, we'll find a lot of solutions that will help us to mitigate that problem. We're also working on a lot of new projects. Just a few weeks ago, we launched the first premium service for our designers, and that is a membership program for independent emerging designers. So what we realized is that a lot of designers have problems going to brands like a FedEx, like an Apple. Designers use the same products from these big brands, but because they're so small, they don't get the right rates to actually act as an innovative, but also as a sustainable brand. So what we've done is we've taken the negotiating power of 35,000 designers together, and we've gone to brands like Women's Wear Daily, Apple, UPS, FedEx, and they have given these designers huge discounts. In the US, our designers ship with 60% discount on UPS to make sure that designers can actually compete with the bigger brands, and they can ship directly to the consumer instead of having to sell through stores. We also went into e-commerce. So for the first time, we allow designers to ship or sell directly through our website. So if you go on our website right now, you find a button that says Shop This Designer. And again, what we try to do is create e-commerce in a completely direct and very transparent way. So once you click on the button Shop This Designer, it takes you onto the website of that designer. So whatever money you spend it directly with that designer. So if tomorrow you decide, I want to support a jewelry designer in Iceland, or I want to support a women's wear designer in Colombia, that money goes straight into the pocket of that designer. So they can use that, they can manufacture locally, but they can sell globally. And that's a way for us to tap into the e-commerce market. And once we sign up all of our 35,000 designers, we will be the biggest online shop in the world. So in the end, this is a toolkit that for designers that we want to give them to, in some way, hand them over the keys of the industry. We will also continue with the launch of our world's first online intellectual property marketplace, which promises to create an entirely new business model in fashion and beyond. The marketplace that we envision is an opportunity for our designers to sell rights to reproduce their designs. The project will provide basically a renewable market for ideation and implementation of original designs to be sustainably acquired by large fashion retailers in a fair and ethical way. In other words, what we will start doing is we will allow designers all around the world to work with other bigger retailers. They create wonderful designs. We want to find a way that even an H&M can purchase designs from our designers. The money will then make sure that these designers can continue their small operations. Instead of hiring them and bringing them to the fashion capitals, we will allow designers to live in the smallest towns around the world and contribute and work with these bigger retailers. So by actually bringing the two worlds together, we feel like we can actually help both sides. And finally, we will continue building authentic event installation. This was our store opening at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. All of our events are tied to local manufacturers and designers. This was the world's biggest pop-up store. Doesn't look like it, but it was the size of a jumbo jet airport hangar in Dubai. We did a trade show in Italy around bringing manufacturers and designers together. So small artisans from northern Italy had a problem of surviving. What we tried to do is inject creativity into these manufacturers, and actually we got them to meet. Over 5 years, 100 designers from our platform were selected to meet 100 manufacturers. This was a showcase in Berlin, and finally, we're working on our current flagship project with Mayor Garcetti's team in Los Angeles, where at the moment we're trying to really underline the importance of their manufacturing district, which counts about 12,000 factories in downtown LA. And what we're trying to do is to help, especially designers in the US, to manufacture locally. And the great thing about California is because they have such strict EPA regulations, by default, whatever you manufacture in LA is actually sustainable because people are getting paid $15 minimum. The EPA regulations ensure that whatever we do in downtown LA is also in some way environmentally friendly. So as you can tell, I love being part of one of the most imaginative and creative industries, and I'm appealing to your love of this sector too. I'm sure we all enter this industry in order to make objects of beauty as a lasting mark on this planet. I really think we must fight the complacency in this world, and I think the question really is, what are you willing to give up? Maybe forget about your next holiday, maybe don't buy that dress, and maybe enjoy nature locally rather than flying somewhere else. I really want my children at least to live in a world where they know what an acorn is. I want them to know that blackberries also grow in bushes, that elephants and rhinos live in the wild, and that alligators are not just bags and shoes. Let's return to those beliefs so that our great-grandchildren will still own the objects of beauty that we make today as heirlooms, as a wonderful legacy to our time on Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and let's make this year one of decisive change. Let's break that spell of mindlessness and addictive consumerism. Thank you.
Questions for you. It was amazing, the presentation. Congratulations. Can
Thank
you sit here, or do you want to stand
Sure,
up? You
as you
prefer?
wish.
Thanks. It was amazing. I love the concept about less, consume less, and more ethical, more eco-friendly. I love the legacy. Like, I'm a mom, so for me it's really important. Like, we need the next generation. Like, my kids are like, they love the YouTubers and the Supreme stores. So it's like, it's a big challenge because that's everywhere. So I'm glad that somebody like you that is young and is trying to implement the changes, because we really need to change our society and especially our kids. So let's open to the public. So,
Great. Go ahead.
Any questions over here?
I have a quick question about manufacturing locally. Obviously, LA and New York have sustained that industry. However, in the state of Florida, we don't have a lot of textile manufacturing. So have you seen any other community that has been able to manufacture and grow that industry to support the local designers?
Yeah, so I think it's just about being inventive. So every city and every part around the world has fashion manufacturing. It just might be in areas that you don't imagine. And we worked, for example, with the city of Detroit, where together with Shinola and the city, it's been incredible what that city has done from not having fashion manufacturing to actually being a fashion capital. They have basically taken the knowledge and the skills in the automotive industry, especially interior design for cars, and they've upgraded that into fashion accessories. And I think the same thing is valid for Miami. For example, yesterday I went to see another fashion university called Istituto Marangoni, and everything the students create, they don't buy new fabric. They get the linen and the sheets from hotels, and they create everything based on that. So their entire collections are white. And because the materials are actually really good, it's fantastic what the students make. And they were actually saying that they're working together with several people who have come up with residual fabrics and materials, and there is actually a lot of manufacturers in Miami, apparently. So sometimes you just need to engage with them and educate them as well, and help them to innovate.
Thank you. You know that he's called the Black Shepherd of fashion, la oveja negra de la moda. So, so can you tell me about that nickname?
So yeah, when we started, not just the label just needed a symbol, and back then we felt like what we were doing, especially in 2008, was going against everything that fashion was believing in, which was big brands. And I felt like there were so many young designers who were making much more interesting collections and designs that we almost felt like they were the black sheep of the fashion family. And initially, I don't know, my slides are now gone, but we had a black sheep as our logo, and the black sheep then evolved into that strange symbol that you saw in the presentation. It's still a black sheep, but very abstract version of it.
I love it. It's good to be the black sheep when you're doing good things. Yeah. So what does it take to be one of your designers? So what is the qualification process, or how, like if there are some designers here that want to be part of your platform?
Yes, I mean, we accept every designer, but every designer goes through a selection process in which we then have different, let's say, buckets where we put these designers in. And right now is the most important season of the year. We work with about 200 universities globally, starting from very famous schools like Central St. Martin's or Parsons, down to the smallest colleges in, let's say, New Zealand. And they feed talent onto our platform. And what then happens, we have different sheep levels. Black sheep is on top. These are designers who are slightly more established. They have stockists already, or we find their designs extremely interesting. And then we have gray and white sheep, and that's just sort of the progression for these designers. But every designer goes through a selection process. Everyone can create a profile. It's just that, you know, my team then reviews basically everyone. And the important thing is we want to give everyone a chance to be seen on our platform. So anyone can make it, and if you look at Paris Fashion Week or London Fashion Week, and you look at those names, some of those names have started with us. So there's a lot of success stories that come through our platform.
And I love the look and feel. If you go to his website, every designer looks really professional, and it's nice to just to go around and see all the things. I wanna. You say buy less, but I wanna buy everything you have there. So.
Hi. So lately I've been feeling a little bit discouraged with recycling just because we see how China has banned this and Canada is now receiving this huge amount of plastic that they were sending through back to the country to see what to do with it. So do you have any places that you would recommend for us to send through this plastic to ensure that it's not going to just be put back into the trash, which we see is happening a lot?
Yeah, I mean, in fashion, this is one of the biggest problems that the fashion industry has, and nobody speaks about it. And the reason for that is that we don't have the technology right now to properly recycle fashions. The biggest issue is if you have 100% cotton shirt, that can perfectly be recycled. The issue is that most of the stuff we buy on the high street, so cheap clothing, is always a polyester blend or has some very toxic materials in there. And there's currently only 3 machines in the world that are able to separate natural fibers from polyester in this case. And all of these 3 machines are so small that they can only process a very small quantity. I sit on an advisory board for the city of LA. And as you know, some of the big high street companies are in LA. And you know, one lady recently told us that they fill 2 entire railway wagons every week with little chips and shavings of the cutouts, you know, of stuff they throw away basically. And the market doesn't exist for that type of waste yet. So that goes straight to landfills. And apparently before this was people used to send these types of materials to Africa, and it would end up on landfills in Uganda or also in China. Both of these options are now gone. So the material is being used for pet products, for isolation in houses that are being built, but there's not enough of a market. I know H&M just invested in a company, and they're trying to invent the machine that will actually do that. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the big tragedy that we see. So again, you know, it's so important that, yeah, when you see a T-shirt for $4.99, just look at it, look at the label, and you know, best of all, just don't buy it.
Okay, you know, Antonio.
Are the companies and the designers that are working in your platform, they have to go through some time of ethical filter in order to be part of that platform?
Yeah, so what is interesting, I'm sure you heard about the Copenhagen Fashion Summit that started about 5 years ago, and for the first year we worked with them, and we found a code of conduct or an ethics code for fashion that was actually written in 1973, issued by the United Nations, and it's a book like this. So what we tried to do, we got a lot of people together, and we tried to bring it down to 5 easy steps. That was the name of the project, the 5 easy steps for designers to be sustainable. And then we announced it on the stage, we announced it on our website, and we said every designer who fits to these 5 criteria will get a little green leaf on our platform. The project probably backfired because 80-90% of our designers were already doing these things automatically. Because if you're a small designer, you don't throw things away. That was step number 1. Step number 2 was knowing your supply chain. If you make things yourself, you know the supply chain, and most of our designers make things themselves, so they produce locally. The third part was, it was about using the right materials, or again, buying the right materials. Again, something that most designers have full control over. And then 5 was knowing your customers, so not overproducing. Again, no designers produces 10,000 t-shirts to then maybe sell 2,000. So in some way, these designers fit most of the criteria. We've taken up the steps. So if you go on our website and you go on designers and you click sustainable, we've gone into a very, very technical level of chemical-free, child labor-free. So we've made it very hard for designers to actually, let's say, qualify. But they have to commit to much more than just, I'm sustainable. We want to know what it means for the designer.
What happened if one of those designers become unbelievably successful and suddenly it goes into a huge production? Is in danger to just have to leave the platform, maybe?
Yeah, the problem is, and I think my biggest fear is when they lose control over their supply chain. And that happens for, even designers on a very big scale, like I remember, was it Anne de Meulemeister, or one of the big famous Belgian designers? They make everything made in Italy, but they didn't know that the Italian factory outsourced that to Turkey, and that's how they lose control, and they only found out 2 years later. So it's still, and I think this is where, instead of social media, we should be using blockchain, which is around, and it's so easy to put something into the garment where even as a consumer, you can follow, even where your threat comes from. It's out there, the technology is there, it's just we need to use it.
The good news is that we have Neliana later, and she's going to tell us all about that, all about technology.
Perfect.
Perfect. So we have her. Thank you.
So I think somebody's behind
The
you.
microphone, yes.
Yeah. So you said that you got started around 2008, but I'm wondering if you can talk about more of how you got started, the evolution of your process and obstacles that you had to overcome, and just kind of how everything really came to where it is today, and also kind of trends. So, maybe if you started out and you saw a little bit more resistance and the trend has kind of taken off, and when that happened.
Yeah, we could probably be here for 3 days of telling you how many obstacles we faced, and that I think is normal for everyone who starts a company. I started the company with no money, so it was my brother and I, and we had $40,000, and we did the first 8 years without any funding, and only 2 years ago we had a investment fund and a lady from Miami, who you all know, Carmen Busquet, invest in the company. In terms of trends, back then I remember the job I had before I left, or before I started this, was researching brands that bigger brands could buy. And we did the transaction for the Gucci group buying Alexander McQueen, and back then it was sort of the most emerging designers, the most emerging designer the group had ever invested in, and that was at a turnover of $16 million. So to me it felt like, wow, there must be more designers that are maybe at 1 million or maybe at zero money, but how can we help them? And the first way that I felt like we can help them is by giving them visibility. So in 2008, if you were a designer and you were not either paying or you were best friends with the editors, the stylists, and you were going to the right parties, there was no way you would ever make it and be seen by the right people. And most of the designers were using a website called MySpace, which some of you might remember, which was sort of the predecessor of Facebook, and it wasn't really professional to be on MySpace. So we felt like, why don't we create a platform that everyone can access, that is for free for designers, and they can showcase, and everyone can just contact the designers. So today I know, with Instagram and so many other platforms, this is a normality, but in 2008, there was nothing around like that. There was LinkedIn that just started, and we thought, why don't we become the fashion design version of LinkedIn? And yeah, when we launched, we partnered with Centro St. Martins and the Royal Academy in Antwerp, and we had 500 designers joining in the first month. So that really was the biggest sort of success story, right, early on. And then a million other obstacles.
Hi, I've been a fashion buyer for the last 15 years, and I'm very familiar with the platforms such as yours. But I know that a lot of them charge a fee to the designer, and that's how they, continue to be financially sustainable. I know you mentioned that you guys do not, and all of the profits go directly to the designer. So how, and prior to getting the funding that you needed, how were you able to sustain your business and the platform?
Yeah, by being extremely lean, and by, my belief was always I come from a banking world, so I knew that's an issue, that we didn't have a product to sell, but my belief was always, if we create a platform where every young designer in the world is on, and that is the central platform for finding new talent, then there is a value in there. And for me now, what I've seen over the last 10 years is that in a world of automation, a world of artificial intelligence into which we're going, creativity will be the currency of the future. That's the only thing that artificial intelligence is not able to do, being creative, because being creative is a process that no machine can replicate. So I'm not saying we're selling creativity, but we're selling access to designers. We're selling really interesting initiatives that involve our designers, and that ranges from working. So we've worked with probably 8 or 9 different countries in the world. We've worked with the cities like Dubai, Berlin, London, New York, now LA. We work with a lot of luxury brands who come to us and say, we want to hire young designers, but we cannot find great designers, so they come to us and they launch different initiatives. Everything we do in some way benefits the designers, and the new subscription scheme, this is the first time where we're actually charging the designers, but it's voluntary, so only the designers who feel like they're ready, they can upgrade. But the basic part of the website will stay for free.
Go ahead.
What are the parameters that your team uses to select which are the designers you're going to work with, or like what support you give to each one of them?
Yeah, so as I said in my talk, it's never politics. So we don't look at names, we don't look at where they're from, we don't look at, did they study or did they just learn on YouTube how to do their things. It's purely about the quality of design. One thing that I have to admit is the photography is very important these days. So designers have to have great photography, but if you go on our site, you look at the photography, and you saw that as well. It's better than any Louis Vuitton campaign you can imagine, because now creating a photo shoot or a cool video is something you can do from your phone, and mostly young designers are extremely well connected, so they know the right photographer, they know the right models, and they come together in a collaborative effort. So for me, I would love to only judge the designs, but because we live in an online world, we judge the designs and, let's say, the art direction behind the photo shoot as well.
Can I?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So when you work with a designer or you start including them in your platform, do you see their designs in physical before, or it all happens digitally?
No, so look, we used to travel a lot. We travel less now because there's 150 countries that we would have to go to, and yeah, unfortunately we don't get to see much of the real fashion unless we do an event or a pop-up store. But yeah, I wish we could, but.
I'm just learning about this part. I was here yesterday. I'm a CNA, going from CNA to designer, but my mom was a knitter and she had 2 yarn shops. And I basically do this for her. So what you're doing, God bless you for doing it, because there's a lot of people and it's very hard to get into this industry if you don't have the right connections or anything. And as I spoke yesterday, we talking about connecting the body and stuff, and they say, well, why you want to learn knitting? That's the grandma thing. Well, some of the knitting that is coming out is like really amazing. And I'm definitely interested in your site. But my mom, she passed, she could have been like blowing everybody off on Project Runway, but unfortunately she passed away from pancreatic colon and lymphoma November 1st, 2015. So I do this for her.
Appreciate that. Yeah, good luck.
Sorry.
Great.
Yes, any other question? 150 countries. So tell me one that we don't really see in the map really often.
God, I have to mention a country that I love because I feel like, I don't know if it's, I feel like we've done a lot in that country, and probably we helped in getting the designers out of that country in terms of global recognition. That's Ukraine. So just by chance, I was invited to go to a few fashion events in Ukraine. And one of them happened when, I'm sure you remember the big, when the war started and Maidan Square was occupied, and we had planned to do an event there, and obviously the government funding was taken out, and then we emailed all of our designers in Ukraine and said, guys, what should we do? Because it's dangerous for us to come, and apparently it was also not allowed to actually have these public gatherings, and then we still did it, and we flew to Ukraine and we did this amazing event where we had all of our designers in one room, and I don't know if you go to Barney's or Saks now, you will find at least 2 or 3 of our Ukrainian designers. So it's been amazing that the industry really came together. Just the other week, it was really funny. Kanye West, he loves our website, so he hires people for his team on our website. And the other day, I got an email from this guy from Ukraine, and he barely speaks English, but he makes these amazing puffy jackets. And then he said, Stefan, I'm moving to LA. I'm like, really? And he's like, well, Kanye called him or messaged him himself on the site and was like, you should move to LA and work for me. So now he lives in Calabasas and designs puffy jackets for Kanye.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations for being that voice and that exposure for so many designers, and for being like ethical and so cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.